Hey guys, so after looking into the build order a little bit, this is going to be one variation of a hybrid build order. It's going to be kind of a split pressure build order, so to go on land as well as water, um, without sacrificing too much on water, just kind of utilizing the extra resources that you have. Um, this is just one variation. I think against certain civs it might be more viable than against others. Perhaps against England, um, maybe Delhi. HREs possibly as well. It kind of depends on what your opponent's doing. But that's kind of this build kind of looks into it as well. We're gonna slightly go over the build really quick, and then we'll perform it. Um, immediately once we spawn, we're going to send our con out towards the middle of the map, and then we're going to set our TC up, and then we're going to send one veil up to the middle of the map, and 5 veils onto a wood near the TC. From there, we're going to go. Production from our TC will be 3 villagers onto food, or 4 villagers onto food rather, then one onto wood, then three onto gold, and then all villagers onto wood until basically you have around 18 villagers or so on wood. And yeah, that's pretty much it from for the build. And we'll just kind of perform it from there. So we'll grab a cons onto the middle, grab TC, set it up. Let's grab this. A little bit of a mess up there, it's okay. Where's our gold at? There we go. Sometimes the map spawns a little interesting. Yeah, so it's hard to tell sometimes where exactly the lake is gonna spawn. So I do like to send the con immediately just so you can get a better route. Your initial dock placement is really important for your success on this map as well. Make sure you don't block your nearby shoreline fish for your villager to gather. And then typically I find sacred site, then I stay on my side of the hill. And then I'm just going to kind of race over to the trade post. And you're against an actual opponent, you'll run into his scout more than likely. But against AI, it doesn't ever really happen. We have 3 villagers on food. We'll get one more. That's another thing. Your villager on food, your 4 villagers being produced from the TC on food, will deplete this sheep at approximately 2.5 minutes. So it's important that you come back in that time. You can even scout his base if you really wanted to, if you're worried about some sort of different kind of play. But typically they won't. It's probably better just to pick up sheep and get map control, and then, or not map control, but pick up sheep for later on food production. Like it just saves you, like if you have to transition, because eventually you'll transition onto pastures and whatnot. Buggy game. Oh, almost messed up there. Just go up to 6 on wood, so one more on wood from the original 5, and then you're gonna go 3 on the gold here. That's pretty much it for now. It's kind of relaxed. This is like the one little part of the build where it's on this early part where it's kind of relaxed. See, our village just finished around the 2-minute 45 mark. That's kind of bad. Don't idle your TC there. It's a little bit of a mistake on my part. Hopefully it doesn't affect the age up. This is our last villager that we're rallying on to wood. We found the AI's dock. And the big thing that we're actually going to be hunting for our opponent's base here is we're looking for his goal position. So we've got 6 fishing ships queued up, so we're getting close to being able to drop, have enough wood stated up for a stable drop. But we don't want to rush it. No sense in losing additional build time or production time from our dock. See, it's close here to if we had dropped the stable, but we wouldn't have enough for our our ship production to be continuous. So now that we have, what is this? How many ships? 6, 8 ships. Usually it's around 8 ships in production, and then we can grab a villager and send them on to by the Ubu. Wherever your Ubu is, it's kind of going to be in the back here, unfortunately. That's not great for our timing here. So we're sending him over now that we have 140. He should be able to get over here just in time. There we go. And he's going to go right back. Okay, we found his our opponent's gold, or 2 golds, I guess. Set that up over here. We can shift our comm back. You don't necessarily have to. It might be, you know, pertinent to just keep an eye on your opponent until you have this up. Oh, one thing I forgot is to get forestry early. So a little bit of a mess up here. We could have gotten forestry a lot earlier. It does help a little bit, especially in the earlier phases, more so than the later phases. So if you can get it earlier, it's better. And there we can get a scout out now. And the scout's really to see the other side of the map, see what it's really up to. We want to be able to see kind of what our opponent's up to at all times. And we'll send our first Keshik over here. This is finishing up right now. Sometimes I just cancel this if my A-dip is going to be in time. I'd rather have a light chunk out before I have another ship out. We're going to send the light chunk out over to here. This is kind of a mistake. Send these guys on to gold. The split for the landmark split is 6 on, or sorry, 3 on gold and 1 on wood. So a little bit of a mistake on my part not doing that split properly. And then we're also getting double broadaxe. And that double broadaxe is going to allow us to get double production, or production from basically 2 TCs at once, which is going to be really big. Our scout is just getting across here now. A little bit late on the gold, and that's because we had a little bit of a late transition here. And we're getting enough wood now to drop another dock. So this is kind of where the build is going to vary here, because you can get another dock if you've already 1 water, which is highly unlikely. But if you have 1 water, you can start looking to maybe build a blacksmith, build an archery range. If your opponent has reacted to the early horse presence with spearmen, then you want to go into archers. So there's a lot that can be done here from this point. You can drop your you can drop a range instead. You can drop blacksmith if you think you're going to need the... Where did my villager go? Oh, okay, so this is one thing. This is a mistake. Don't do this. Sometimes I queue my villager onto control group 2, this first one. I think I'm going to start queuing him to control group 3 because my cav is usually on control group 2, and now I've pulled my villager over. But this is kind of the build. You're getting a good amount of fishing ships out. You're able to get a light chunk out around 520, 530. And you're also able to get a Keshik out at the same time. So hopefully you're going to be able to get your opponent with a little bit of pressure on land as well as on water. And this is just one variation of the build, of a water build, hybrid build. There is another variation that you can do with Silver Tree. I haven't fully tested it out yet, but I would assume it's gonna be pretty good. You should be able to get double dot. So the difference I think with the Silver Tree build is gonna be a lot more all in on water, perhaps against an HRE player or a China player, um, maybe or a Roost. You'll be able to get 2 docks and be able to produce from those 2 docks immediately. So that's something that I still have to look into, but um, we'll kind of test it out in the following days and see how it goes. I'm going to be trying out this build on ranked and see how it feels. Um, but I do want to mess around with the Silver Tree build as well. But for now, this is just kind of the Deerstone build. We'll go over it one more time in the build order um, for the build order, I guess. Let's see. We'll just watch the replay. I think this is it. Yeah, there we go. And it's nice getting that early stable up because you're going to be able to send a second scout out and basically have really good eyes on your opponent with your con and a scout out. And you shouldn't have to really bring your con back for food, for a sheep. Especially since you ran him early, you should have better sheep haul than your opponent. So immediately I send the con out, set my TC. One villager over is usually what I would do. A little bit mess up sending these villagers a little bit late. That's okay. And we send our Gur over to gold. Sheep onto TC, villagers rallying onto sheep. And we find the sacred site, which is going to be in the middle, and you're going to be able to see the shoreline. And from there, you're going to send your villager. Try not to go to the very pinnacle because there's only like 1 or 2 deep sea fish. It's usually better to go a little bit to the edge. And there you see right here, we've got 3, 4 deep water fish that are really close. And even this one is relatively safe. So you can span to the east. And over here, we're going to rally villagers. Again, we're going to go up to 4 food here. And this the sheep that's over here, the sheep carcass is going to run out about 2.5 minutes, 2 minutes 40, 2.5 minutes, depending on the walk time and all that stuff. So just know you have to be back with your con in that time. But it's a plenty of time. You could actually even go scout around your opponent's base and back if you go in a direct line. But it's not really necessary. I think there's more sheep actually here in the middle area by the market and the sacred site. So just kind of aim for that. Going around for his side of the mountain on the return route is a little bit greedy, and you probably lose more sheep that way than just staying on your side and trying to head on a diagonal, and hopefully you run into him and just turn around when you do. If he goes on a different angle, it's not a big deal if you do end up losing a bunch of sheep. Your main food economy is really here on the docks anyways. Now we are up to 4 villagers on food. So our next villager is going to be on to wood. Now we have a 6-6 split. It's soon to be a 7-6 because another fishing ship is coming out. And then kind of mess up here a little bit later on the reaction here, but after your villager onto wood, we're going to send 3 villagers onto gold. Still rallying up the deep water fish. Be careful about this villager that having him on a control group like I did. It will mess up your dock timing for your second dock if you mess up your hotkeys like I did. Here we're building villagers again. Again, a little bit of a mistake here. We have some idle time. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, almost 9 seconds of idle time. So that's a half a villager we're behind for nothing besides just messing up the build order. So that's something to make sure not to do. Stay attentive at the opening because the early opening it's definitely more impactful than later on. Forgetting 10 seconds. Now that we're up to 3 on gold, we're going to rally villagers on wood to get about 15, 16, 17, 18. I like around 18. Once you have double broadaxe and forestry with 15 villagers, you can produce constantly out of a dock 1 fishing ship and a junk at a time, or any variation really of that. So having plenty of wood production is really key for this build. but at the same time, you're going to see that you're going to be floating a lot of food. Like, well, right now we're looking for the age up, but after this age up, we're going to be starting to float a ton of food. So that's kind of where we decide to drop barracks. You can drop another building. If you drop a um, sorry, I drop a stable, not a barracks. But if you drop a barracks, you can do it too. The only issue is that it needs a little bit of wood consumption. Actually, a pretty hefty amount of wood consumption. I think it's 80 wood a minute. So it'll start chewing into your production on your ships. So it's usually not really what you want to be doing. Is going for barracks early, but it's definitely possible. You can do it just by pulling villages off of gold instead. But we're gonna go with this. One thing that we do forget to do is shift queue our villagers from the landmark. I like to send 3 on the gold and 1 on the wood. And another thing is we have 8 fishing ships, and after these 8 fishing ships, we were dropping a stable, and we had stopped collecting. And we're having approximately, well, now we have the dock up, but we had about, I don't know, approximately 10 seconds or so of idle time, maybe 5. And the stable's up, and we're going to be dropping a scout shortly. And this scout is going to be really big because you should be able to scout 2 sides of their base, and with that you should be able to really get a good feel of what your opponent's doing. If you drop some, and this is kind of where the build really starts to vary, because once that scout gets over there, and even as your con is over here, you're going to see if they're dropping a proxy building, if they're dropping any infrastructure, military infrastructure, if they're diverging away from their investing on the ships. And especially with this, the scout, it's going to really help be able to keep eyes on your opponent. And one thing that's really important is to get, once you age up, to immediately queue in a light junk, even if you have a fishing boat that's like, unless the fishing boat's got like 4 seconds or so, 4 or 5 seconds, like it's probably almost always worth to cancel the fishing boat and queue up a light junk. Now we do have enough food or wood to drop another dock, so we can look to drop another dock. If your opponent had dropped a barracks already and is building spearmen to deal with your keshiks, he scouted your stables or something like that, then you want to be building a range right now instead of a dock. So there's a lot of variance that can happen at this point in time. But I do recommend building at least 2 to 3, at least 2 warships, light junks, and then maybe a third one. Here you can see my villager heads over to the dock to start building, and then I mess up my shift queuing over here. I send my horses to attack, and when I send my horse to attack, I send the villager to attack as well. So that's just a mistake on my part. But this is kind of where the variation really begins, around the 6-minute mark. You're getting eyes on your enemy. You've got plenty of production for your keshiks. Make sure you get your upgrades. You can sometimes sneak in a wheelbarrow. Kind of depends what your opponent does. You'll also be gold heavy. So if your opponent does decide to go for war junks, making explosive junks will actually be really easy because you have plenty of gold in this build. We would have had a second dock up at this time as well, so a little bit of a mistake there, and that's kind of where we start floating a ton of wood, is because we don't have that going, and we are kind of messing up our Keshik here. So that's just kind of the gist of the build order, and yeah, that's pretty much it. This is your hybrid opening on a hybrid map, and it's a Deerstone landmark, and it's just it's a push on water as well as a push on land. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you on the next one.